And welcome into Bet On It, the Hoops edition here, Final Four. I'm Joe Raineri, filling in for the wonderful Kelly Stewart. She'll be back on Monday, guys, as we do have one more game after this weekend to decide a national championship. But today, I am joined by who else? The one and only Marco D'Angelo. Feels like I've done this before here, Marco, with you. And also Mr. Penn. There he is, the Penn himself. Ralph Michaels in the house here on this Final Four edition of Bet On It. And gentlemen, we have finally gotten to this point, right? A couple of teams left here. Who's going to be advancing on Monday? Who's going to be the national champion? A lot to unpack in these couple of games coming up, but Marco, you continue to dominate here on the hardwood this season, over 60%, and I would imagine one way or another you're going to have a little something ready to go here this weekend.
Yeah, Joe, it's been a great basketball season. Going to be sorry to see it end, but you know what that means. When the basketball season, college basketball ends, it means the NBA playoffs are just around the corner. And then we'll be throwing some high heat in baseball as well. As we brought you out of the bullpen today to host the show.
Yes.
Appreciate that. Kelly had more important things to do today. Rumor has it that there's a pasty white guy on a Florida beach somewhere in a Speedo from Detroit. So, how could you not pass that up?
Yeah, I did get all sorts of alerts on the phone here that I should be on the lookout for some pasty white dude from Detroit, so I'm not going outside, Marco. Let me ask you here, Ralph, welcome in. Always a pleasure to see you, man. Some Final Four news and notes. Let's face it, this is kind of uncharted territory, right? No 1, no 2, no 3. And yet here we are. We've got 4 teams battling for a national championship. Anything we need to know here heading into the Final Four?
Well, we don't have a TNA segment. I'm going to break up a couple things quick, which shocks me. You look at a 4 seed, a 5 seed, a 5 seed, and a 9 seed. That adds up to 23 seeds. No 1, no 2, no 3. But it's not the highest ever. In 2011, UConn was the 3, Kentucky was the 4, Butler was the 8, and VCU was the 11. So while you think this is historic territory, again, the 2011 Final Four actually had higher seeds. I want to mention 2 quick things to start. If you think about the Final Four, since 2013, favorites have gone 14-4 straight up, only 8-9-1 against the spread. And this one really surprised me, Joe and Marco. You think about the Final Four, stadiums, different sight lines, curtains. The over-under is actually 12, 5, and 1 in that stretch. So I was surprised that 12 of the 17 games have gone over the total.
So it's so strange on so many levels here, this one. But you know what? I think chaos is going to be coming a few more years down the road as well until we can figure out the whole NIL situation here in college hoops. I think we're going to get a lot more March Madnesses just like the one we had this year. But we do have game number 1 coming up this weekend. The first of the Final Four games is going to feature, well, a team not too far down the road from me here, as the Florida Atlantic Owls are going to be taking on San Diego State just after 6 o'clock Eastern time. The tip here, 131.5 is the total here. And San Diego State is the slight favorite, back and forth a little bit, -2, -1.5. And that total sitting pretty there at 131.5. So, Marco, start us off here, my man. San Diego State, FAU. How are you approaching this one?
Yeah, if you had either one of these 2 teams still in your bracket for the Final Four, God bless you. Think about this for a second. We're going to either have a team from, either Florida Atlantic from Conference USA or San Diego State from the Mountain West Conference is going to be playing from the national championship. That in itself is mind-boggling. Think about this for a moment. There are 6 college basketball teams still playing right now. The Final Four for the big dance and 2 teams in the NIT. Do you know that 3 of those teams are from Conference USA, people? So when we're going to be quick to say, oh, Conference USA, Florida Atlantic, they came from a soft conference and all that, just pump the brakes a little bit before you start with that narrative, because even though it's the consolation tournament, the NIT, you got 2 of them in the championship game. Now, with that said, let's look at this game here in Florida Atlantic and San Diego State. Both of them have one thing in common. And you mentioned, the NILs and the transfer portal. I think it's going to change college basketball, all college sports forever. And I don't think, Joe, you're going to see 2 teams like this make this kind of run again. And the reason for that is we talk about mid-majors, and there's no question. Conference USA, Mountain West Conference. Remember at the beginning of the season, beginning of the tournament, when everybody was putting that stat out on the Mountain West Conference, what they had done in the last 2 or 3 tournaments and how many teams they get in, and they were 0 for whatever. Well, you have the common denominator. Both teams had 4 returning starters this year. You just don't see that in college sports anymore. And I think you'll see even less of it, because if they do stick around in college, they're not going to stay at the same college. If they're at a mid-major, they're going to get into that old transfer portal for their senior year and take advantage of it on a bigger stage. So enjoy what you're seeing with these 2. This one, Joe, I think we talk about correlated parlays, and I think this is one of them. If you like San Diego State, obviously you're going to be looking to the under, because this team plays just tenacious, hard-nosed defense. They make you work for every shot. But if you're Florida Atlantic, and I've got a week to prepare, you're figuring ways to get this tempo sped up to get San Diego State out of their comfort zone. Florida Atlantic's not bad defensively themselves, but not on the same level as San Diego State. But where the difference is between these 2 teams is on the offensive side of the ball. And for me, I am going to go with the correlated parlay. I'm going to go with over in this game. I think it's going to go over the total for my play here on the show for this segment. But we're going to be talking maybe a little best bet action later in the show. I got a couple stats for you that do support the over in this game. Neutral court teams where the total's been 130 to 139.5, and good shooting teams like Florida Atlantic where they shoot 45 to 47.5% on the year, facing an average shooting team, as we said, San Diego State, 42.5 to 45. The last 5 years in college basketball, blindly playing the over in that situation, 81 and 47. Now you want to talk neutral court? Well, this one is a historic one. I'm going back 25 years in the database. Neutral court teams where the total was between that same number, 130 and 139.5, after 7 or more consecutive wins, that would be San Diego State, in a tournament semifinal game. How about 64 and 33 to the over? Go ahead and pencil me in for the over in this one. I'm going to take it over 131.5.
Love the correlation there. I think spot on there, Marco. Ralph, I don't know. San Diego State, I don't know if it's a cat, how many lies they got left, but you're talking about a Creighton and Alabama team that shot a combined 5 of 44 from three-point range against them. Now, don't get me wrong. They are a good perimeter defense, but my goodness, 11% between Creighton and Alabama from the perimeter. Do you trust these Aztecs to do this one more time and limit FAU enough to be able to win this one?
Well, Joe, I was on San Diego State against Alabama. And while you can say those teams shot poorly against San Diego State, let's remember San Diego State is the number 2 3-point defense in the country, allowing 27.8%. They are cat-like on the outside. You make that pass, and that's where I think they have the advantage here. Florida State likes to drive, throw the ball out, and shoot the 3. Florida Atlantic shoots quite a number of 3s. In fact, they're number 33 in 3-point shots versus field goal percentage, and they're number 25 in the country as 37% of their points come from three-point shots. So that's where I think San Diego State has the matchup problem. I also have a best bet in this game. It's going to be a player prop when I dissect this game a little bit more. Florida Atlantic, did they impress me against Memphis winning by 1? No, I thought they could do that. Did they impress me against Fairleigh Dickinson winning by 8? No, they did not. They did against Tennessee, and I was on the college basketball show with you, Joe, and I know you were on Florida Atlantic plus the points against Tennessee, that number 9 seed pulling the upset at that point. But I look at them, and then the Kansas State game, they did impress me with that late run. Both teams are deep. Florida Atlantic has 8 or 9 guys that play multiple minutes, and in fact, in the last game, they had 8 players play 11 minutes or more, and no one play over 30 minutes. That's in a game that went down to the wire. You normally don't find that type of depth, let alone from a mid-major. San Diego State goes 8 deep. They only have one scorer that averages over 10 points per game. Why? Again, they bring the ball up as slow as anyone. They're number 266 in tempo, but they're very slow on the offensive side. They're number 345 when teams are bringing up the ball against them. Why? They pick you up full cart. They make you work a little bit harder. Size, again, you have to give the advantage to San Diego State. Florida Atlantic often plays 4 guards and a center. And when you're looking at, Davis is their tallest guard forward at 6'4". So when your front 4 guys are 6'4" or under, it's going to put you at a disadvantage. Obviously, Golden in the middle, 7'1". He sort of cements it where they could do it. But again, Florida Atlantic, just a beast on the boards. It's amazing that this guard combo can get the number of rebounds they do. I am going to pass on the side. I'll tell you what. Florida Atlantic is a team like Miami, we're going to talk about in a minute, that I didn't believe in. I thought they were semi-fake. They kept proving me wrong, so I'm not going to go against them here. I am going to go under in the first half. And I think that with the pace of the game, with Florida Atlantic having to see this three-point defense, trying to make that extra pass to get the open guy, and these guys are so accustomed to getting the ball and shooting on the threes, when you have a guy in your face, again, that's going to extend the offensive number of passes you have. Give me under first half. The game's obviously in Houston. And it's a situation where I think it will be low scoring.
So one of the facts that I saw about this San Diego State team, which blew me away, is that since February 1st, 14-1 to the under. And those games are going under by an average of 13 points a situation. So not only are those games flying under, the books can't even get and adjust it correctly because we're talking about double-digit unders since February 1st for the San Diego State team. A hell of a defensive effort by the Aztecs, but will it hold up? What do you got, Mr. Penn?
Joe, one more note on that.
Go ahead.
Let's remember, this is March Madness. We have so many public people betting that Vegas doesn't need to make the total where it is. They're not getting burned on these totals because they're getting enough people to say, oh my God, look at this low total. I'm going to bet the over. So remember, Vegas's job is not to put the total where it should be. It's to put the total where they're getting equal money. And with so much public money betting overs in these games, you are finding some value playing the unders. In fact, I didn't mention this, but this year in March Madness, 61.9% of every game has gone under the total up to this Final Four.
You mean like people who saw 115 as a total last night in the NIT and was like, oh, I got to take the... All right, then. That was great. Thanks, Westcon. That was fantastic on so many different levels here. We do have one more game coming up here, guys, though. The other half of the Final Four. Miami taking on UConn, and we will break that game down coming up next year on this edition of Bet On It, the Hoops edition here.
If you love $9 Monday and $2 Tuesday, you're really going to appreciate our new Throwback Thursday when all daily packages are slashed in half. Yes, you heard right at both WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com. All Thursday daily packages are now 50% off. This means that a 4% package will be only $12.50. A 5% top-rated play, normally priced at $35, will be only $17.50. And the hottest sales item of the day, get a full day of access from the handicappers of your choice. That's one day of every applicable play they release, including any 5% best bets, normally priced at $39, for only $19.50. The best part is you can come back every Thursday to take advantage of this limited time 50% off spring offer.
All right, guys, welcome back in here. Bet on it, the Hoops edition, Final Four. That is where we are at here at this point in the season. Just a couple more games left. We talked about FAU and San Diego State. Now, let's take a look here at that second half of the Final Four here. The late game as the Miami Hurricanes taking on the UConn Huskies. 5.5 is what we're seeing in the marketplace here. That total, 149.5 here, and yeah, it's the classic old 4-5, Marco. I mean, I know you had this, right? You had this come in here at this point. What are you thinking about UConn and the U here?
Well, Joe, I know that the U in basketball did a hell of a lot better than the U in football did. I hate to bring up bad memories for us this season, but Connecticut. Guys, let's be honest. Is there anybody that hasn't already handed them the national championship? I mean, they have ripped through everybody. And I've been on that bandwagon for all of it, except the last one. Full disclosure, I did have Gonzaga in the last one. I thought that was a good matchup for Gonzaga. I thought they would be able to stay with Connecticut, and boy, was I wrong on that one. But with that said, as I said, nobody is giving anybody else any love in this other than Connecticut because of the way they played. And I think you're seeing that in this number. And I'm talking about value. I think this line is too high. Yes, they've played super. Yes, on paper, they look like they should be this big of a favorite. But this Miami team has done nothing wrong all year. And you look back at what they've done. They've got one loss in their last, 8 games, 7 games. And that one loss was against Duke. And that was a bitter loss for me because I did have Miami in that one. They lost their big guy in that one 2 minutes into the game. And it was the difference because they just got pounded on the boards against Duke in that game. They lost by 7, getting 2.5. So it wasn't like they were out of it, even with the big guy gone. Now, I think they're going to use that size, and I think they're going to be able to neutralize Connecticut. Connecticut plays good defense, but Miami has a very efficient offense. I like this team plus the points in this one. Look at both teams have played well on the road this year. Miami's 14-5 against the spread on the road. Connecticut's 14-6 against the spread, so no edge there. But Miami's coming off a high-scoring game. They scored 88 against Texas. This season, when they've scored 85 or more, Miami's 9-1 against the spread in the next game. Miami is an underdog this year. They've been an underdog 11 times. They're 9-2 against the spread. When they do lose games, they just don't lose by a lot. I don't see Connecticut getting that separation in this one the way they did against Gonzaga. And let's face it, that was just too easy. Can I play? I can't have a show where I can't say fat and sassy. I got to use it. I think that we're looking at a Connecticut team that's overpriced. They're reading their own press clippings. This is a team that I do believe should be the favorite to win the national championship, but I think this is going to be the toughest one for them, is getting through Miami. I'm going to go ahead and grab the points. I've got Miami 73-71.
So, yeah, I can't believe you brought up Mario Cristobal there, and I'm breaking out in hives here, Marco. Thank you so much for that absolute nightmarish recall. Hey, listen, I mean, Ralphie's got a point here, right? Most people have already crowned UConn the champions at this point, right? There's no, but you know, a lot of teams along the way, we've been doing this to Miami. They were going to lose to Drake. They were going to lose to Indiana. They were supposed to lose to Houston. You know, they were never going to get by Texas, and yet here they are. So how do you approach this game?
Well, I'm going to say this. When I look back and look at this tournament, the most impressive games in my mind was UConn holding the best offense in all of college basketball to 33% shooting. And on the flip side, Miami shooting 52% against Houston and 59% against Texas. So where does that put us? Well, it puts us in a situation where you still got to pick a side. I will say this, Joe. Next year, people talk, what's the best city for basketball in America? You know, you think about the triangle in North Carolina. While Duke and North Carolina are two different cities, it's one area. Screw that. It's now South Florida between Boca Raton and Miami. Hopefully they schedule a non-conference game next year to open up the season between those two. I will say this. I'm going to disagree with Marco with 1 point, and vehemently I'm going to disagree him with. You know, he talked about how UConn, reading their clippings, expecting to be here. UConn was the most underseeded team in the entire country. They had a 4 seed, but they were the number 4 team in Ken Palm's ratings. That means they should have been a 1 seed. Guess what? Right now, UConn is the number 1 seed at Ken Palm. So they deserve it. Top 11 offense, top 11 defense, depth, defense, 3-point shooting team. They don't have the traditional point guard in Newton, but I'll tell you what, he does a great job dishing. You have multiple scorers. And Marco said, you know, Miami missed their big guy. Omer went out with 2 minutes to go against Duke. Their big guy is 6'7". Yes, he's a big guy for Miami, but he's not a big guy relative to college basketball. Now, UConn doesn't have a lattice size, you know, because Sanogo is 6'7". But Klingon, their 7'2" freshman's been giving them about 15 minutes a game. And he's someone that you can put in that can stop him defensively. I think that's the difference there. But I'm going to say this. My numbers say UConn, lay it here. I look at their offense. I look at their defense. I think they are the best team by far. But Miami, to me, has just passed the eye test. Drake, I thought they would get by. Indiana, I leaned Indiana. Houston, I leaned Houston. Texas, I lose Texas. So when you're watching a team and they impress you, the numbers don't really bother me. You know, Nigel Pack, Kelly's going, oh my God, imagine if Kansas State would have had Pack again, a transfer from the Wildcats. Wong's as good as anyone. And we started the show, you know, with the NIL. And Joe, I forget his name, but you know the Miami of Hurricane alum who is like Santa Claus passing out this NIL money to these players. Miami may have a team for the next few years with the amount of money he's throwing to these guys and getting them the promotions that they need to stay with the U. I am going to actually lean here with the over. You know, UConn's matchup against Gonzaga, they shut down Timmy and they did what they wanted to do. They're a very good rebounding team, but this Miami team doesn't give up offensive rebounds. They do a great job at that. I think both teams can press the tempo a little bit. UConn allows you to come up. They don't guard you half court. They don't guard you 3 quarters. Teams come up and can shoot quickly. We've seen Pack and Wong push that pace. And on the flip side, against Miami's D, again, they're number 104 as far as Ken Palm goes. And as far as 2% defense, which UConn excels in, they're number 246. So paper and numbers say lean UConn. Eye test, to me, says Miami of Florida can hang with anyone and can keep it within the number. I'm going to skip an opinion on the game and give you an opinion on over, full game over in this one for me.
All right, 149.5 right now. Just to add to what Marco had mentioned here, as an underdog this year, Jim Larrañaga and the U, 9-2 against the number. I'll take it back one more year. How about 20-5 if you include last year as an underdog against an, oh, wait, one more year. 3 years. How about 33-12 against the number? The University of Miami, this Jim Larrañaga basketball program, 33-12 against the number as an underdog. It has been one profitable run here to back the U as a dog. Do they have one more in them? Well, maybe 2 more here. We'll have to figure it out. We do have, of course, when we come back, some best bets we'll throw out your way here as we get ready for the Final Four here on Bet On It.
If you love $9 Monday and $2 Tuesday, you're really going to appreciate our new Throwback Thursday when all daily packages are slashed in half. Yes, you heard right at both wagertalk.com and sportsmemo.com. All Thursday daily packages are now 50% off. This means that a 4% package will be only $12.50. A 5% top-rated play, normally priced at $35, will be only $17.50. And the hottest sales item of the day, get a full day of access from the handicappers of your choice. That's one day of every applicable play they release, including any 5% best bets, normally priced at $39, for only $19.50. The best part is you can come back every Thursday to take advantage of this limited time 50% off spring offer.
All right, welcome back into Bet On It, the Final Four edition here on Wager Talk TV. And it is time, of course, for some best bets. And yes, I'll start it off here in true Kelly Stewart fashion. I am going to be a homer. But total transparency here, I'm holding a future ticket on the University of Miami and UConn. So I still am going to look at Miami at this game here, getting 5.5. I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me, besides those numbers about how well Jim Larrañaga has these kids playing, not just this year, but over the last 3 years as a dog, has been, you just can't overlook it. You also can't overlook that Miami is a team that has done so much better against better competition. They have struggled as a big favorite, not just this year, but last year as well. However, as a very short favorite or as a dog, the numbers speak for themselves. This is a team, very experienced, 6 players from the Elite 8 a year ago. This is a team that elevates its game to the best competition that they play, and I have no doubt if you want to give me 5.5 points with them against UConn, they'll do exactly what they have done all year long, and that is figure out a way to have an opportunity to win this game late. My suggestion, if you're going to take the 5.5, you better do a little of this on the money line as well. Do not be shocked. I know everyone thinks UConn is going to win it all, but do not be shocked if it is the U playing for a national championship. So Miami it is for me here, Marco. I'm in agreement with you, my friend. What was your best bet, though, heading into this weekend?
Well, I'm going to make it an all-Miami final. Let's go with Florida Atlantic. And the thing about it is this team has done everything right all year long. As I opened the show talking about there's 6 teams left in college basketball still playing. 3 of them are from the same conference, and that is the conference that Florida Atlantic won and dominated all year. They were the number 1 team from start to finish, and here they are playing for a national championship. San Diego State has been a great run for them. It's been great for the Mountain West. It's really taken its lumps the last few years. But for San Diego State, you can't play that chip on their shoulder anymore because now they're not the hunted. I mean, they're not the hunter. They are the hunted. They are a favorite. They're switching over from being a dog to the small favorite here. And I think people are going to look and say, well, it's San Diego State. We've seen them before. They've had good teams every year, and then they've disappointed late. But now they finally put it all together and got themselves to the Final Four. This is their year. I don't think so. Florida Atlantic, I will admit, their first 2 games in the tournament, they caught breaks. Catching Memphis, the first round game, was huge for them. I was on Florida Atlantic in that game because they were catching Memphis coming off of upsetting Houston for the American Conference Championship, knocking off the number 1 team in the country. Yes, I know they were going to the big dance, but that was still huge for them. Then in the second round, they caught Fairleigh Dickinson. Oh my God, off the biggest upset you could possibly have. So yeah, the first 2, they got lucky getting who they drew. But after that, beating Tennessee and beating Kansas State were legit wins against legit teams. And the Kansas State team, kudos to Kelly's team. They played well all season, and they played well in that game too. It's just the better team came out at the end, and I look for them to ride it here. I've got Florida Atlantic to winning this one. That is my best bet for the show.
All right, there you go. Sounds like an all South Florida kind of weekend is what it sounds like there, Marco. Ralph, how about you with these two Final Four games here? Which one did you choose?
Joe, I went to the database while you were talking about your Miami team. So I broke down the last 3 years, like you said, when they were a dog or a favorite to 4.5. They're 49-21, 70% against the spread. When they're a favorite of 5 or more, they're 6-18, 25% against the spread. So exactly as you said. And then when I took them as a small favorite or a dog on the road or in a neutral setting, 34-11, 75.6% against the spread. So just sort of emphasizing something you said with the numbers you gave. I'm actually going to a player prop here, guys. This may be the first Final Four where I don't have a play on the side or the total. So I started breaking down a little bit more and looking at some players. We know Florida Atlantic's a three-point shooting team. We know San Diego State's the number 2 as far as three-point defense. So when I break down the Owls roster, you know, your number 1 scorer is set. Your number 2 scorer is Elijah Martin, and he has scored the most. He has shot the most three-point shots for the Owls. But he's a small forward, and he's only 6'2". The Owls, again, a very small team. His over-under point total is 13.5. And despite being the number 2 scorer, they go, again, 9 deep, 11 players in their last game had 11 minutes. 9 players had 11 minutes or more. Martin's only had 28, 29, and 32 minutes. So he's not going to be on the court that much. Plus, who's the small forward for San Diego State? It's Micah Parrish, 6'6". I think that alleviates more of Martin's minutes because they're going to have to go to Weatherspoon, the bigger guy, to be able to cover him. Again, we have the Houston situation. I think this number is way too high. It's based more on their entire season average, where they've only faced 3 top 10 defenses, and now they're facing the best three-point defense they faced the entire time. So Elijah Martin, under 13.5 points, my best bet here on Bet On It.
Love it. Final Four. I love it. A Final Four prop here. Outstanding stuff here, Marco, Ralph. All right, when we come back, we'll wrap it all up for you and let you know what's going to happen for National Championship Monday here with Bet On It. We'll do that next.
If you love $9 Monday and $2 Tuesday, you're really going to appreciate our new Throwback Thursday when all daily packages are slashed in half. Yes, you heard right at both wagertalk.com and sportsmemo.com. All Thursday daily packages are now 50% off. This means that a 4% package will be only $12.50. A 5% top-rated play, normally priced at $35, will be only $17.50. And the hottest sales item of the day, get a full day of access from the handicappers of your choice. That's 1 day of every applicable play they release, including any 5% best bets normally priced at $39 for only $19.50. The best part is you can come back every Thursday to take advantage of this limited time 50% off spring offer.
All right, welcome back in here. Bet On It, the Final Four edition. And to recap it all for you guys that might just be joining us, but don't cheat. Watch the explanations here from the beginning of the show. Ralph Michaels, when it comes to FAU and San Diego State, he's looking at that first half under 61.5, while Marco is looking, well, at the full game over at 131.5. And when it comes to the Miami, the U taking on UConn, Ralph looking at that over there, 149.5 in that full game total. Marco, well, he's back in the U. He'll take those 5.5 points, which also happens to be my best bet here for this Final Four. Ralph's best bet, Elijah Martin under the 13.5 points in that FAU San Diego State game, while Marco's best bet is going to be who? That's right, the FAU Owls. That's who. They'll take the 2 points. He'll be good to go there. And of course, guys, we're good to go for this edition of Bet On It, the Final Four show. But good news is we'll be back on Monday. Kelly Stewart will be back here. Marco, Ralph. They'll have all the final national championship game all the news, all the notes, everything you need to know to make one last profitable bet here for the college basketball season. So make plans to come back and join us again on Monday for a very special final edition of Bet On It here in the national championship game for college hoops. On behalf of Marco D'Angelo, Ralph Michaels, Kelly Stewart, I'm Joe Raineri. Guys, best of luck with all the plays here this week. We'll talk to you again on Monday. Good luck.